Learning how to scratch takes time, dedication, and the true desire to want to become a scratch DJ. However, the process in which you learn can be the difference in it taking a lot of time to learn how to scratch versus it taking not as long. So without further ado, let's hop right into it. My very first tip is that you really want to perfect the transformer scratch because it's such a powerful technique. Now, me personally, I like to say that the three most important scratch techniques to learn is all of your faderless scratches first, so your baby scratch, scribble scratch, tear scratch, things like that. Then you want to really learn the chirp scratch, then follow that up with the transformer scratch. And the transformer scratch is so powerful because you can emulate a lot of other scratch techniques with the transformer scratch. So let me show you exactly what I mean, then we'll talk about it further. LiftOFF. All right, DJs, there are three scratch techniques, including the one-click flare, the crab scratch, as well as the two-click flare, where you can emulate those using the transformer scratch. Now, of course, I know some of you are thinking, wait a minute, those don't sound the exact same, and you're absolutely correct. Although they don't sound the exact same, the point is more so that it increases your arsenal and it gives you the ability to be able to be more dangerous when you are scratching. So when you do learn the one-click flare and you do learn the two-click flare and the crab and the stab and all of these more advanced techniques, now you have the ability to be a lot more versatile and use the transformer or use those other scratches. You can mix and match them. Overall, it'll just make you a more well-rounded DJ. All right, now my second tip is that it's equally important to focus on your hand that's on the jog wheel or your vinyl as it is when you're focusing on the crossfader. I think a lot of DJs more so focus more on the crossfader, but it's actually equally, if not more important, to really have your hand control and hand speed down. And let me tell you exactly why. When you're doing a scratch such as the chirp scratch, a lot of DJs sometimes have trouble with the timing. So what I like to say is the most important thing with the chirp scratch is that very, very first movement of moving this platter or this vinyl or your jog wheel forward. So you're moving forward like this, and then you're cutting that sound out like that. So you're going like this. But as you can see, we need to get enough sound first before we cut that off. So the important thing is that you're moving fast enough forward before you go ahead and cut that crossfader. Now, of course, both hands are important here. However, if you're not even pushing forward fast enough, you'll never be able to get that clean chirp sound right there. The same rule applies to the one-click flare as well. So this is the one-click flare. So when I'm doing the one-click flare, one of the most important things that I pay attention to is after I get to this third sound, so I have wah, ah. So when I get to wah, right before this third sound, when I'm pulling back on my vinyl, I like to pull back a little bit fast so I can make sure I get this sound here. So I'm making sure I'm not actually cutting it out before I get that sound. So sometimes if you come back too fast or you come back too slow like this, or you close this crossfader too quickly, you won't get that sound. So when I'm doing the one-click flare, I like to pull back fast, and then I finish the one-click flare just like that. And then one more example of why your hand speed and hand control is so important is especially for faderless scratches. So when you're doing the scribble or the tear scratch, you really want to make sure that you have good control. So the scribble scratch looks like this. So to get that really fast, it's definitely going to take, of course, some hand control. The other scratch is the tear scratch. So with the tear scratch, I actually don't use this a ton, but it's definitely something that's great to learn. So with the tear scratch, all you're doing is you're pushing forward, and then you're basically making two sounds on the way back. You're coming back halfway, and then you're coming back all the way. But when you're doing this tear scratch, each of these sounds should definitely sound distinct. So it's da, da, da. So for me specifically, when I'm coming back with the tear scratch, I kind of like to make my hand more flat because I feel like I have more control over the vinyl when I have my hand flatter. Some people might want to actually lift their hand up like this. Some people might want to just be like mid here. Some people might want 2 fingers or 4 fingers or all 5 fingers. Definitely explore the way you hold your vinyl or your jog wheel to see what's most comfortable for you, and that may help you with your speed and your control. All right, now tip number 3 is figuring out what hand placement is most comfortable on the crossfader, as well as what hand placement is going to allow you to do scratches the cleanest and the fastest. Now, this is a personal tip that worked for me, so it may work for you. One day when I was breaking down a scratch basted scratch pattern, I realized that I was much quicker doing the 2-click flare as well as the 1-click flare, actually using my index finger instead of my middle finger. And I think this might just be because your thumb, or my thumb and my index finger, is obviously closer together, so it just allows you to move a lot faster. However, I realized that I was able to do that 1-click flare and 2-click flare not only cleaner, but a lot faster as well. So that's another thing I think you should definitely think about as far as your hand placement. You can definitely move your hand up like this. You can move your hand down. You can have your hand at an angle. You might want to use 2 fingers on the crossfader with your thumb. You might want to use 3 fingers and hold it, or you might want to actually hold it versus tap it. There's so many different ways to use the crossfader, so I really encourage you to explore and find out what works best for you. Now, my 4th tip is the encouragement of saying different scratch techniques out loud and giving every scratch technique a specific, distinct sound. Now, I think this really helps with your intentionality when it comes to scratching. So for me, my baby scratch in my head, and when I say it out loud, it's just like da-wa, da-wa. If I'm doing the 1-click flare, it's wa, wa, wa. If I'm doing the chirp scratch, it's kind of like So if I had the baby and chirp, it would be da-wa, da-da, da-wa, da-da, or da-wa, da-wa, And then if I had, if I put the 1-click flare in there, it would be da-wa, da-da, wa, da-wa, da-da, wa. Now, this really helped me tremendously, still does to this day when I want to practice scratch patterns, whether I'm at work or whether I'm driving a car at a red light, all of these different things. You can always practice scratch patterns or create scratch patterns when you can say them in your head or say them out loud. Again, it really helps with that intentionality because you're able to know exactly what you're doing and exactly what you're saying. It's really hard to understand how to scratch when you're not intentional and you're not doing things purposefully. Now, of course, at some point you will be able to just freestyle and just things will just happen naturally. However, when you're learning and when you're a beginner, even intermediate, and even as an advanced DJ, being able to do this is definitely a skill, and it'll definitely help you scratch anywhere, just in your mind or saying stuff out loud. All right, now my last and final bonus tip is to not compare yourself to other DJs. We're all on our own specific learning journeys, and we all learn at different paces. So I encourage you to just stay focused, hone in on what works for you. Your time will come. Just continue to practice, and don't worry about what other DJs are doing, because honestly, it's just a mental block and it can definitely throw you off from your particular scratch or mix journey. So with that said, those are my 4 tips, including that final bonus tip. So if you enjoyed this video, please press the like button, please press the subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell so you know the next time that I upload a video. And without further ado, I will catch y'all on the next flight.